tried to hold us back, to hold us, tried to hold us back.
We will be here forever. Do you understand?
This week, I catch up with creative, legendary skateboarder, permaculture enthusiast, and conscious human, Mr. Scott Spring. Scott delves into his life so far, from his early days growing up in the southern parts of Sydney to where he's based now in the Blue Mountains of New South Wales, Australia. Scott talks about the importance of self-awareness, his philosophy on maintaining longevity, navigating life challenges, and much, much more. We're joined by a close friend of both of us, Sean Mussett, aka Gravel Burns, and I love saying it like that. Sean and I did a road trip to the Blue Mountains for a couple of days. We hung out in Scott's amazing residence, which he talks at length about in this episode. We went skating with the Katoomba Surf Club, so keep an eye out for a YouTube edit of the session. And man, some stuff went down, like they're ripping up here, and much, much more. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and you will too. So sit back, relax, get to know Scott Spring, everybody.
Let's get back to what makes things seem forever, whether it's unseen, unheard, or 16 again. Not a bother, fill this old man river, kill a floor that gives all. Coming upstream.
Artistic skateboarder that enjoys building work, and I'd say I'm green, but not too green. And yeah, that's basically it, I think.
What's too green?
I don't like preaching, that sort of thing, or, you know, telling people how to live if I can help it.
Do you find it hard not to sometimes, though?
Oh, not really. In my younger days, I did. You know, I was a bit more driven and more opinionated. So these days, I'm 56, so I'm a bit more laid back and, yeah, try and let my work speak for itself, you know.
Do you feel frustrated when you see wastage and overconsumption?
Yeah, again, I used to, but that's the way of the world, and if I sweat that, I'm just going to be anxious and, you know, feel a bit down. So, yeah, I tend to focus on the positive and seek out inspiration, and, yeah, we're doing all right, I think,
just
most of the time. Yeah.
Manage your own business and then just worry about what you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
I love that. Man, we're in Katoomba, the Blue Mountains, New South Wales, Australia. It's such a magic setting. And Scott, your ecohouse is like nothing I've ever seen. Can you give people a bit of an idea of what you've created here?
So it's made from mostly found materials like plywood, glass for the windows, a lot of corrugated iron, galvanised corrugated iron, and most of the framing timber and a lot of the timber for cabinet work is chainsaw milled. So chainsaw mill is it's a jig that goes on a chainsaw bar that acts like a cheese cutter. So you just slice pieces of a tree, break them down further, say with a power saw, and season them. We've got a lot of radiata pine in the Blue Mountains, which is on the weed list, so we're allowed to cut them down. And, yeah, they're really stable timber. Then with windows, mainly made out of Oregon, a lot of reclaimed Oregon and toughened glass, old sliding glass doors. And
Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
Is
And
it hard to get those symbols off the doors?
no, leave them on. Just leave the symbols etched
So you
on.
purely do that for aesthetic reasons?
No, it's difficult to remove the symbols.
Okay.
But most people go, oh, yeah, that's funny, you know. Some people are a bit disconcerted by it, but not often.
What percentage would you say of your structures are reclaimed materials?
So a building like this, obviously it's a concrete slab, but it might be 90%.
Wow.
And it's not necessarily a sustainable model because there's only so many recycled materials in the world. But it's just moving in a direction, and I think for me, too, more than anything, it holds my interest. Working out schedules for materials and stacking off plywood, and
It's not
it's a vocation as much as a job.
It's not a form of activism?
It could be in a way, but I don't necessarily see myself as an activist.
You're active though.
Yes.
in helping the environment.
Yeah, and I like to think that, same with the skateboarding, that we're just riding the shoulders of giants before us.
What do you mean by that?
Well, people who've blazed trails and we draw inspiration from, and then we add our 20% of difference to our method. And it's like a lineage. So in most subcultures, including skateboarding, where you're part of a process over generations. And that's a good feeling, you know. Yeah.
A process of progression, though?
Yeah, I'd say progression and learning hard lessons and, yeah, that sort of thing. Relying on elders like I did when I was growing up skateboarding and with the building work I do. You know, where you look to those guys that are a bit older and say, yep, he looks like he knows what he's doing. He's nice and calm. He's supportive. I'm going to be like him.
Okay, well, give me some people that were that for you.
One particular story I like is when, so 78, so I would have been 10, and my grandma took me to Skate City at Manly. I'd seen Skateboard the movie, which was so influential. And I was standing in front of the bowl, and the bowl was like 9 foot deep, no flat, fiberglass, very intimidating. And I had just one of those tiny little Californian Arrow fiberglass skateboards with resin on the deck and sand for grip. And I thought, there's no way I'm rolling into that bowl. And I don't know who it was, but to the right there was some teenage skater guys hassling me because I was with my grandma and, "What are you, chicken? You going to roll in?" All that. But then to the left there was an older guy, skater. It was like, "Oh, you don't have to roll in. You know, you can have a go over on the quarter pipe. You can take your time," and just pleasant. And I thought, yeah, I want to be like that guy. So years later, I was talking with people at one of the Chaos get-togethers, and Wedge goes, "Yeah, that was me." And I went, "Oh, cool." And I'm good mates with Wedge, but it took me years to realise that we had that connection. So, yeah, I think all through our lives we have people that come along, and some people call them mentors or elders or whatever you want to call them, and they're influential, and you work off them, and they're almost like father figures sometimes, mate, you know? So, yeah.
When you've been in those positions of people looking up to you, do you see that as a responsibility?
Yeah,
to present yourself in a positive and kind way?
Yeah, as I get older, more so. When I was younger, I don't know, when you're younger, you're sort of learning about the world and a bit reckless and carrying on. And yeah, as I get older, definitely. Yeah, but as a younger skater, there was always crew around that were looking out for you. You know, people like Biff and Johnny Gray, Adrian Jones, Wedge, those sort of guys, you know. And they were still a little bit reckless and good skaters, but yeah, their hearts were in the right place, I think, you know.
It's pretty raw those days, though.
Yeah, they were.
Do you think it's become more sanitised?
No, I don't. Not necessarily. I think it's pretty similar to when we were growing up. Slightly different circumstances, or say more money and industry, but I think skating and that feeling of learning something new and belonging to a group still is the same sort of feeling. It's funny when I hear people say, "Oh, the best time in skateboarding was," and they'll put a date on it. It's like, no, the best time in skateboarding was when you were 15 to 20 years old and you had no responsibility and you were just reckless and, you know, getting pissed and hanging out with your mates, and yeah, it was all new and exciting. I suppose we didn't have the pressures of being an adult, you know, and the responsibilities.
What's it like for you now?
What aspect?
Skateboarding.
Yeah, good. I probably appreciate just the way that I can still skate, and I'm certainly not pushing like I used to because I don't want to get wrecked. It's nice to be able to turn up at work Monday and be able to walk and all that sort of stuff, but definitely still enjoy skating and the crew around and how we've all grown together too, like hanging out with Gravel and Johnny Gray and Errol and Lux and Wedge and all those guys, you know. Yeah, it's brilliant.
In those golden years of your youth, Were you striving for something in skateboarding?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
What?
Well, I definitely wanted to be a better skateboarder. Like so many of us, we were looking at sponsorship, maybe a pro model one day, go to the States, which was a great direction, and it's great to have something to strive for. And that competition was so important too, I think, to, test your mettle on the field, learn about your character, and perfect ground for all that sort of process growing up. For good or ill. There are a lot of hard lessons too, and some conflict, but pretty much all of it's been resolved as far as I know. I think most of us have said our apologies and had a laugh and moved on,
I think they're young man problems?
Yeah, I don't know if they're so much problems as necessary evils in a way. It's something we have to go through to learn. I mean, you can tell someone how to live and how to go about life, but until you actually tread the boards, fall on your own sword, all that good stuff, that's so humbling.
Like a rite of passage?
Yeah, totally. Like an initiation, Yeah.
I feel like young people are missing that though.
Because from what I've heard, a lot of young people just create their own initiations, and they'll go out and find their own fire and test themselves. Like it's inbuilt that we just search for it, I think.
But it's just different now.
No, not necessarily. Maybe a bit with technology and whatnot, but it's just a different way of approaching the same aspects of life. And I think with a lot of the internet stuff and phones and internet platforms, it's still relatively new, so people are working it out to some extent.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, time will tell.
We're sitting here with good friend Sean Mussett,
Yes.
Gravel Burns.
Yes.
How did you two meet?
When was it, Sean?
Can you remember?
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking like 87-ish. Did you come up to Ridge Street?
No, I just missed out on Ridge Street, but...
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it was 87. Ridge Street was 86.
I remember a bit of a street comp sort of thing where I met you and Macca and a few of the fellas.
Was that like a car park thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a couple of gigs too. It was like punk bands and ska bands. And,
Yeah, that was 87.
Right. Yeah, good times. And just meeting that extended family of skaters, and brilliant.
Nice, man. Special.
Yeah, it is.
Where did you grow up, Scott? Oh, no, where were you born?
So I was born in Auburn in Western Sydney, and I mainly grew up in the Sutherland Shire. And I started building ramps at a fairly early age. Well, actually, my first skating experience was some guys skating over the road in a driveway, and they had an old soft drink crate and a sheet of plywood. They said, have a go. And they had Surfer Sams. And so I had a go, and the feeling of banking off that crate and just rolling out, it was just amazing. I suppose it was my first flow state experience, dopamine experience. It was so exhilarating, and just the movement of it was just magical. So from that, I just had to get a skateboard from Gowings. So I was 7 at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then got one of those plastic banana boards, like a penny board. After seeing Skateboard the movie, 78, I think it was, I was 10. I tried. There was a park in the States called Reseda Skatercross, and so it was like a snake run thing built, looked like an old service station with an awning. So I just went home and tried to build that with a dumb berm and a couple of little quarter pipes and just laying timber on timber and then layers of masonite, and it was pretty ordinary. It sort of worked.
So you had an early desire to build stuff?
Oh, yeah. And my old man was a builder.
Okay.
But whereas I didn't do a lot of work with him, he'd step in and show me a couple of things, and he very much left me to my own devices with building tree houses and skateboard ramps. And, yeah, it was a good approach.
So he wasn't trying to override you and tell you you're doing it wrong?
No, and he definitely gave me enough rope.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was good. Plus, I suppose, moving away from your parents, when I'm there all the time,
What do you mean moving away from your parents?
Well, just becoming your own person and Yeah,
They
it was
ga-
good though. I had a lot of good support from my parents. You know, we didn't see eye to eye on everything, but it was brilliant. I got
But
no
they gave you the
complaints.
freedom to explore and be who you are.
Yeah, they did, totally. But then they had very fixed ideas about where I should go career-wise and,
What were they?
uni and various things, trades and things. But, I mean, I got to late high school and just went, 85, 86, skated Danny Van's ramp, met him, hung out at his little one-bedroom flat, checked out, like, some Del Mar contest video and went, this is amazing. So after school, dropped out of my ceramics course and just moved into Danny's house. It was so good.
How old were you?
I think I was 18.
That was 18.
And, yeah, it was brilliant because Danny knew a lot of crew. It was a bit of an epicenter for the Sydney scene. Like, as you know, there was no internet. There was barely videos. We only just had skate videos. So communication was by a phone, landline to someone you knew. If they answered the phone, if they were home, like it was pretty random. But then the stories had spread. People would do road trips. Yeah, and there was a bit of a half-pipe scene in Sydney and Melbourne and, you know, the next guard coming through like it does.
What would you consider your first proper ramp that you built?
Probably a half-pipe in my yard when might have been 84.
Sutherland Shire?
Yeah, we got Transworlds for the first time, say 83, 84. And there was a Lance Mountain article when he rebuilt his ramp. And it had transitions and plywood transitions, and we realised they were radiuses. And that was a breakthrough because before that we'd just stack bits of 4x2 up and try and get a curve. And parks like Five Dock and North Ryde, they were pretty all over the shop with regard to their curves. And so true radiuses were the breakthrough with making ramps at that stage.
So you realised there was a formula?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And to cut a template, multiple templates, and then simplified framing.
Changed the game.
Yeah.
Who were some people coming to skate that ramp?
My brother, mainly at that time. Not a lot of crew. We had a few people in our neighbourhood that I skated with, like Lux at that time and Warren Archer.
Adam Luxford.
We all lived within 3 kilometres of each other. Might have been 86 sort of thing. There was probably 10 half pipes within a 3 kilometre radius of my house.
Wow. And how instrumental were you in their construction?
A bit, but so was Warren and Lux. And Lux was more prolific. He had more of a team of the next generation that were helping him. And, yeah, it was golden age. And they were rough ramps. And Lux's ramp, it was 10 foot high, 12 foot wide, but it was on the edge of a 6 foot cliff. So, yeah, there was like this sort of a bit of a tennis net that did nothing. And then... yeah, you just had to have your wits about you, you know. You learnt very quickly, yeah.
Were boards going over the edge?
Oh, yeah, constantly, yeah.
What suburb was this out of
That's at Como, Como, yeah, in Sutherland Shire.
That's epic.
Yeah, yeah. It was brilliant, though. Great ramp, really well built.
Did it feel like there was just rapid progression going on?
Yeah, definitely. Every couple of months there was a change, and it was... so much of it was spurred by those ramps being built, particularly when we, say, got to skate Dave Clancy's ramp or Danny Van's or Mitchell Newell's ramp built by Andrew Hulley. So they were all really good quality ramps at that standard spec of 9.5, 10.5 foot high, whatever it is. And so, yeah, that lifted our game as well. And having people around that were positive and supporting us as well, because, I mean, there was a lot of carry on and competition and whatever, but to have people like Danny that were pretty good and pretty supportive, and guys like John Gray, Finn, you know, they were great mentors
Supportive
and great
in what
support.
way?
They were just positive, and they had the cars, and yeah, and like Danny had the ramp, and yeah, it was great.
And Andrew Hulley.
Yeah.
Did he have the first vert ramp in Sydney? You reckon?
Yes, he did.
Shout out Andrew Hulley. By the
Oh,
way.
for sure. Like, he had that, I think it was an 8 foot wide ramp first at Rydalmere. Then he built the 11 foot high ramp. And I think that might have been 85, 86. But we went to Skateboard World and saw a newspaper photograph of Hully's ramp, and it was just of one wall from the base of the transition, and it was taken with a fisheye, so it's this oververt shot of someone doing a kick turn. And we all stood there and went, we're at Skateboard World at Burwood, said, we had our bikes, should we go out to Rydalmere? And one of my mates said, I'm not riding 10 kilometres to skate an oververt quarter pipe. And we all went, yeah, true. We'll give that a miss. So it was just back to 5-dock again, you know.
So didn't understand fisheye.
No, I mean, it was just had no idea what the photo was. So, yeah. But, yeah, in later years, Andrew Hully's ramp at Rudy Hill, he's got the mini ramp with the hip and all that. That were great years as well, you know.
How would you describe your relationship with your parents as a teenager?
Yeah, good. Really good. But I had my own ideas of what I wanted to do, and, you know, they're just trying to bring you up with good boundaries and roof over your head and food and point you in the right direction. But
I know you said they were supportive.
I got my own ideas. They were a bit reckless, you know, not really career orientated, but it worked out.
I know you said they were supportive, but that era of skateboarding was very much regarded as an activity for misfits and outcasts.
Yeah.
Where there's much more acceptance these days.
Yeah, there is. But for the most part, we're all fairly harmless, and it was important that we had something to apply ourselves to. Kept us out of mischief, and, you know, there was so much structure and subculture, and the creativity around skateboarding was great for me, who's someone who's artistic. People like Gons and Blender and doing their own graphics, doing art in the magazines, and not like amazing Picasso pieces, but they had their own style. You know, a lot of it was sort of a little bit naive and just ad hoc. Yeah, very, very inspiring. And then the skating thing, yeah, just physical activity. You get a buzz out of it. So good.
Thank you. Yeah, that was what I was leading to. Like, what are the transferable life skills that skateboarding has taught you?
Tenacity, falling down and getting up again, resilience, when to pull my head in if I'm getting too egotistical or whatever. Yeah, a lot of great skills. And socialisation, and, yeah, to strive, you know, and learning to compete and strive, how to do it, how to go about it without being a big head and without being too passive, you know, to get the best out of yourself. I hope that's an ongoing process, an ongoing learning process. Yeah.
Grabs and like nodding, yeah. How was school for you?
Yeah, school was all right. I did get bullied a lot because I was quite a quiet, reclusive kid. But I found my group of skaters, say in early high school, and we were hanging out and we had our group, and that was so important, you know. And I did enjoy arts and woodwork at school. The other subjects, not so keen. Yeah, but definitely the arts, and did art stuff after school at the school.
Did it come easy to you?
Yeah, fairly naturally, yeah. But then it was good to have support to refine those skills a bit, and yeah.
You had support?
Yeah. I found my favourite teachers. I think a lot of people do. You have a couple of teachers that are on board a bit. They're not just dictating terms, and, you know, so, yeah, some good people around.
Yeah. How'd you function though in those structures? It's like a very rigid environment on time schedules and.
Well, I was good with time schedules, and it was good because I was quiet. So I just sat at the back of the room and just drew pictures of skateboard ramps and dumb doodles, and it was fine. Yeah.
Often highly creative people, such as yourself, struggle with the rigidity of that.
To a great extent, I was just living in a little dream world too. A lot. We're just dreaming of projects and just, I don't know, whatever music you just heard, and how I'm going to record a tape of the top 40 on Sunday night, you know, just what I was into, yeah. But paid a bit of attention, yeah.
Did you go all the way through to year 12?
Yes. And I'm glad I did, because it gave me a chance to just grow up a bit. If I left in year 10, I was sort of a bit immature, I think. But yeah, year 12, leaving in year 12 was good.
How was that first transitional year into life after you graduated?
Well, it was good. It was exciting because, like I said, we were skating Danny's ramp. We had our own ramps. I got a job at the end of 86 when I finished high school at Skateboard World. It was at Burwood, and that was like a iconic skate shop that had been around since the 70s. It had all like black and white photos of Dave Mock and Adrian Jones and all that crew at Pimble Pool, and there was a couple of older skaters working there. I got to learn more about the scene and hang out and get pissed and all those fun things. Skateboard World also had boxes of old gear, like old roller sports urethane wheels and trucks and just tons of stuff like that. So it's almost like a museum as well.
The old Skateboard World vert ramp, portable vert ramp?
Yes.
Did you build that?
No. That was built for Coca-Cola demos, and about 86 it became the Skateboard World ramp. Like they did painting on it and whatever. That was one of my great moments too, like great experiential moments where I was trying to convince Peter Lynch, who ran the shop, to take me to the demo ramp for a go. And he's like, oh, no, it's for our professional team and rah-rah. And I was an all right vert skater, but he thought, I've got to get and skate that ramp. So he goes, oh, Scott, you can help me. Come down the Coca-Cola factory and help me, something to do with the ramp, some repair. So I brought my gear. He's like looking at the gear and got there, and I'm waiting for the session to finish. And I think it might have been Adrian said, oh, do you want to have a go? And Peter says, oh, yeah, have a go. And I wasn't at their level. But, yeah, I did okay. And Peter goes, oh, okay, so you can skateboard. I was thinking, yeah, I can skateboard, mate. Why do you think I'm working in a shop? So, yeah, that was good. That's when, I think it was the following year after that, there was me and Pete Billinghurst, Matt Hoffman, Luxford, Warren Archer, Zelko in the Skateboard World team, doing a bit of demos and touring, and, yeah, great times.
When you started to advance more into park building and bigger projects,
Yes.
was that with Adam Luxford? Did he inspire that transition? No pun intended.
No worries. Yeah, I met Lux, say, 84, 85 maybe, and we both were building ramps, so we got together and, worked a little bit on each other's ramps. But when that time came about, I think it might have been 88, where I helped with some sort of portable street setup for the Easter tours with Chris Miller and Gons and all those guys. So I was living down at Gregor and Lee's place, and Noel Forsyth got me and Spittle to build that. Well, half of it was already together. So in a way, that was a foot in the door. And then in coming back to Sydney, someone had heard about it out at St Mary's, and then they got us. They called up Finn, I think, at the shop, or it might have been Johnny Gray. Actually, I don't know if Finn's shop was happening then.
Coping.
Yeah, no, it was. I forget which shop it was, but it got onto us.
Get rad.
We went out to St Mary's, and I think me and Spittle went out, and probably Lux, and just had a chat with them. And they had 2 squash courts that they'd just knocked down the centre wall, taken out some main post. It was pretty hilarious. And some real rough characters out there managing it and running it, and said, yeah, just build a skateboard ramp. So we built that spine ramp and talked about it a lot. It was like 6 radius, 4 foot deep on one side of the spine, and then it stepped up to 5 radius, 3 foot deep. Had like a cool pool wall, and that was 5 foot radius, 2 feet of vertical wall at the top with pool coping. So a bit challenging. And I mean, from that I got work they flew me over to Perth, to Bunbury, to build that, and I got to that place, and it was just a massive old theatre. I thought, Shane Hadley, I think, worked on that with us. I thought, we got to get Lux in. So we got Lux in for that one. Come back from that project, helped Spittle finish the St Mary's vert ramp. And then shortly after that, Fairfield started. And that was fun, man. Wow.
Okay, before we go there, because I've been holding back to ask about Fairfield because Oh, wow. But anyway, back to St Mary's. That would be the first spine ramp in Sydney ever built.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Where did the inspiration for that design come from? Was it from seeing Animal Chin?
I think it was from seeing Public Domain.
Public Domain?
Yeah, so that was before Animal Chin.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It was after?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so maybe it was Animal Chin.
It must have been.
Yeah, but I do remember that a big influence for the mini ramp building thing was from that Public Domain section where Lance Mountain built Kevin Harris's park. And it was like an amazing, complex mini ramp with hips and spines and vert walls. And that was probably more of an inspiration, yeah. And certainly for that Labyrinth one in Bunbury and Fairfield, yeah, big inspiration.
Right. So just the idea for having like multiple elements to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when we get to Fairfield, like when I first seen that, I was just like mind blown because, yeah, it was a mini ramp, a spine ramp, but it was also an extension. It had channels. It had like a box. It had like a little U ramp.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like your imagination could run wild there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, man, like, tell me, like, how it all came about. So you built St Mary's and then you got offered the job at Fairfield.
Yeah, and we built Bunbury, or me and Lux built Bunbury. And then we helped Spittle with St Mary's vert ramp. Then with Fairfield, there was a great manager there, Alan Marr, and he was chatting with Finn because Finn set up a skate shop there at the old canteen, the first Curb and Coping, before it moved to the main shops.
Right, the first one was actually at the pool canteen.
Yeah, the old canteen, yeah. And Alan Marr was great. Great facilitator. I chatted with him a lot about what we were doing with that project. Couple of meetings, no contracts signed. It was late 80s. It might have been 88, 89. And me, Spittle and Luxford, we had no money. We didn't really have anywhere to live. And I said, it was quite a reach. I said, Alan, we haven't got anywhere to live. What can we do? And we said, can we stay at the pool center? And he said, look, I'll get a council caravan on site for you to live in. So he rocks up with one of those old aluminium rounded corner things with holes in the floor. It had like bench seats and a lunch table, and that was it. And so just a cupboard. The seats were like 500 mil wide. The table was 600 mil wide. The three of us, we'd toss a coin to see who slept on the table because it was more comfortable. It had another 100 mil. And
the three of you lived in that?
Yeah.
For how long?
4 weeks of the build and then I think a month after. And we also had no money for food and said, can we get credit at the kiosk, at the tuck shop? And he said, yeah, no problem. So we just lived on chocolate moves and strawberry moves and sausage rolls
from the pool canteen?
Yeah, and whiz fizz and, yeah, it was great because we were like 18, 19, whatever.
So wait up, where was the budget for Fairfield Ramps from? Was it from the council?
It was from the council. They poured a concrete slab for us.
What was the budget? I got to know.
Oh,
do you remember?
I don't know. I really don't know. But it was a fairly straightforward project.
And were you actually getting paid a wage?
No, I think I worked out a set fee. I knew how long it would take, like it was 4 weeks or whatever.
Okay.
And just worked out a set fee for us to get paid.
Within the budget?
Yeah.
So it was kind of up to you guys how quickly you got it done.
Sort of was, but we were just frothing to just get it done and skate it.
How old were you, reckon, when you and Lux built that and Spittle?
So I would have been probably 19 or 20, I think, maybe 20. And then so Lux is 2 or 3 years younger than me.
Yeah.
Spittle was probably 23, 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And I mean, living in that caravan, on a Saturday morning, we'd wake up and we'd just step outside the caravan at 10 o'clock, just a round of applause by all the bathers sunbaking around the pool.
Amazing.
Yeah, hilarious. I mean, there's just no way they'd set up some project like that these days.
Do you mind if I give listeners some context? For those of you that are maybe not so familiar, Fairfield Ramps were built within a public swimming pool complex.
Yes.
In Western Sydney, which was a very long way from the ocean. So it was for a lot of people their only place to go swimming.
Yes.
And it was built within that. So it was what a contrast of cultures.
Yeah, it was. But it was all a positive thing, and we all had a laugh. And
Who built the vert ramp?
so a company built the vert ramp. I'm not quite sure where they're from. That was all prefabricated.
Yeah.
They built it in a
Metal.
factory and then shipped it on site and put the surface on. And
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was all right. It was a big ramp. It had small protruding coping. But yeah, at that time too, I was vert skating fairly well, but I wasn't peaking and I wasn't really pushing. So I was more into the mini ramp thing and pools and street skating and just building. I sort of didn't peak with my skating till probably 23, 24 with my vert skating. But yeah, golden days. I mean, building those ramps, and obviously we skated them for free. I think after Fairfield, we were based at Danny's house again, which was quite central to St Mary's and Fairfield. And
What, just crashing at Danny's?
yeah. In a little one-bedroom apartment. They call it the shoebox. There'd be like 5 to 10 of us there at any one point in time.
So good.
It was so good, man. It was just like the hub that everyone would go to. And we had people like Shane Deering would turn up once a week, and he'd bring the latest thrasher or, skateboard videos and music. And I learnt a lot of punk music from him. And yeah, he was great. Yeah.
Amazing.
And another great drawer, another great artist.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you blown away at the popularity of the Fairfield mini ramps? Did you expect it to turn into what it turned into?
Oh, sort of. I mean, skating was booming at that time. It was good. What was great about it too is how it brought in pros from America. So we got to see Jeff Kendall skate and Tommy Guerrero, and it was just, Jeff Kendall's quite a favourite of mine, amazing skateboarder.
I see that.
Yeah, so, that time, because skating was booming, and there were so many tours at that time, starting with that Losi tour, that was significant. That might have been 85 maybe, 86. And just to see an American come out, we'd seen the videos for a couple of years there and getting Trans Worlds and whatnot, but to see them actually skate at that demo, to see Losi skate.
Amazing.
Yeah. And other skaters there were rad, but Losi was definitely a standout.
Yeah. I went to the Tommy Guerrero demo when he was there. I think he came out, he was by himself, and he did a mini ramp demo.
Right.
And Mike D emceed that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah,
so
cool.
Rest in peace, Mike D.
Yes.
And I'll never forget, my mum drove me up from Nowra for it, and Mike D was on the mic. She's just this lovely little woman from Nowra.
Yeah.
Well, she grew up in Western Sydney, but, from now. And I'll never forget Mike D got on the mic and he was just like, it was raw back then. And it was swearing. And then he was like saying stuff like, Satan is in skateboarding and just like the devil is here and like stuff like that. My mum is just like, and I was like 13 and my mum's just like, what is this?
Oh, he's like a comic genius, that guy. Like so hilarious and real spruiker.
His energy.
He really get an energy going at a demo. Yeah.
Yeah.
No worries.
Really so iconic for the culture and shape the culture in a lot of ways.
Yeah, totally.
Wow, man. So after that era, moving on through your 20s, what was life doing for you? Were you starting to work in other areas, or when did the ceramics?
Yeah,
come
right,
about?
right.
Was it after that or before, or was it always there?
It was. I went to TAFE again in when was I? I was about 25. So that would have been, I don't know what year. Might have been 95 or so. And I was skating less. I'd skate Bondi Mini a bit. There's another one we built was Bondi Mini. It was with me and Ian Courtney, one of the photographers.
Ian Courtney Clark? Was that his?
No, another Ian Courtney. He worked at Skateboard World.
Who was Courtney Clark against?
Yeah, one of the Woodies, a vert skater. Yeah.
That's right. Sorry.
You're right.
No disrespect to anyone there. I just was trying to...
Yeah, Ian Courtney was a great photographer. He took some of those great skating life photos at Fairfield of Luxford.
Right.
Doing massive methods to fakie, and when Luxford was really starting to push. Around that time when that demo was that high air demo. I was actually, a bit after that. But, yeah, Ian Courtney helped me build that one. I think Lux was overseas and Spittle had moved back to New Zealand. So, yeah, we built Bondi Mini in about 3 weeks.
Who built Bondi Vert Ramp then?
Some other company.
It wasn't you guys.
No.
I mean, that Bondi Mini is still regarded as one of the best transitions ever.
It was. Yeah, a lot of people think it's elliptical, but it was
Upside
just
down.
Yeah, well, the curves were elliptical.
What does that mean again?
Oh, so if you say mark a radius, you can mark the base of a curve and do it at say 9 foot radius, and then you can shift the compass point.
Excuse me, yeah.
And then the rest of the curve might be 50, 100 mil less.
So you're sort of saying like it would be like tighter at the bottom and then flatten.
Usually bigger at the bottom and
top.
tighter at the top.
Okay.
Yeah, usually.
Oh, excuse me.
It wasn't elliptical. It was 8 foot radius, 6.5 foot high, 20 foot wide. Might have had 14 foot of flat. But the reason it was that dimension, at Fairfield, we had 8 foot radius 6 high, 8 foot radius 7 high, and then 8 foot radius 8 high, with the idea that people could progress almost through a run and take a trip from mini ramp to vert and then to the vert ramp. Wow. So from that, we went, well, 6 high with 8 radius is pretty mellow. 7 foot was a bit steep. So just went, okay, 6.5 foot high.
Yeah. Did you ever see Jeff Williams skate that ramp?
Amazing, yeah.
He just, I watched him progress on that thing, but he just destroyed it and then would take those tricks to vert.
Yes.
I'll never forget. And same Bart Carnes. Like for me, I know maybe a couple of generations behind you, but those two on that mini ramp were always just a staple.
Yeah, definitely. And Jeff's just great all-round skater and, powerhouse, amazing.
It's funny how skateboarding's gone back to that. You know, they call them ATVs.
Okay.
You know, for a while there, it was like you're either vert or street. But I love how that's emerging that skaters are now, there's skaters that just skate everything. They can skate vert. Like I think of this guy who skates for girls skateboards like Simon Bannerow. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Ripping vert skater, but then kills it on ledges and in the street. Like I love that. And I feel like Skunk epitomised that.
Yes, definitely.
He really did. No one else was doing it at that time. Like both.
Or maybe Danny Way, yeah.
Well, yeah, Danny Way.
Yeah,
he probably got,
so.
I mean, I'm sure Skunk got inspiration from that. But he was like, but not just doing both, but doing both well. So hard.
Definitely.
Like, if you had to reflect on skateboarders in that era from, like, say, Fairfield Mini days through to the early Bondi Mini Ramp days and Bondi Vert Ramp, who were some emerging skaters that were really standing out for you?
There was a lot, and I'm hesitant about naming names because there were so many amazing skaters, and
You don't want to leave anyone out.
I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously Luxford was a standout.
Yeah.
You know, and people like Jeff Williams, Jake Brown. You know, the heights he rose to. So many amazing skaters for sure. Too many
to name.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But this going back to the ceramics, I went away from that. But
I was skating Bondi occasionally and curb skating a bit, living in Sydney. But went to a ceramics course again. I think it was an associate diploma that I dropped out of previously. And that was good, very creative, good mob of people. But I definitely struggled in that course. And I was having trouble reading. Like I'd read a paragraph 10 times and it wouldn't sink in. Socially, I was struggling and confused to the point where I was getting quite upset. I was missing days, start crying in class. And the head of department, Terry Wright, took me aside and said, "Oh, you're struggling and, talk about it a bit." And she said, "Look, one of my friends is in special education, is one of Australia's leading experts, and said, we think you're Asperger's, which is part of the autism or ADHD spectrum." And I'm thinking to myself, no, my idea with autism was someone who's more severely impacted. So I said, no, that's not me. But yeah, that was like the first seed of learning more and more about who I am. And
how old were you?
So I was about 25 then. Yeah, in those days there was less known about those sort of things. I certainly don't want to see that viewed as like a crutch or something where people can say, oh, yeah, I can't do it for this reason. But, yeah, that was the start of learning more about my character and my brain makeup and whatever. And that lends itself to why I'm creative. I'm a little bit bright, so I love watching lectures on YouTube and thinking of complicated systems and all that sort of stuff. But with it as well, socially, I get a bit confused about what's going on. Spectrum people can have 50 to 90% less brain cells around socialisation in the hippocampus, so that means you struggle or you burn out quickly socialising. Things like hearing 5 different things happening at any point in time wherever you are and concentrating intently on all of them makes it difficult to socialise. Or socialising when your brain just wants to look at all the amazing detailed design in the room, all the skateboards that are around. So, yeah, those sort of things are something I've come to terms with. But then having time out to rest after, and big events particularly, pursuing my special interests, engaging my brain how it wants to engage, talking with people about it. When I did spend a lot of time a bit embarrassed, a bit confused or didn't know about my state. And, yeah, so through conversations, talking with a few psychologists, people like Sean, yourself, who are a little bit in the field or have knowledge around that. Yeah, very helpful. And I think as part of an ongoing process, probably till the day I die, learning about it.
So you feel the key indicator was the challenges of socialisation?
Yeah, it was. That's what brought it to my mind, but also the difficulty reading, the difficulty staying within structured routines of an education course. So every project I'd start would evolve in a direction and the teacher would gently put a hand on my shoulder and say, Scott, that's great work, but you're so far off the topic and it's just, I can't assess you on that. So have to rein me back in. I'd have to do the work again, go off topic again, but eventually meet the brief and be able to be assessed. It ended up that I dropped out of that course because I was struggling. And, went on the dole for a year and just hung out at Brighton Les Sands on the beach, got into permaculture, rode my push bike around doing nothing. It was great. It was an important thing to do, to take that time without shame, and just recoup.
You had the means to do it?
Yeah, I had the dole, mate, the provisional arts grant. I was fine. I had a little job on the side delivering pamphlets.
Was that the Johnny Howard surf team or the Bob Hawke surf team?
Yeah. They've all got their different versions, but they're pretty much the same, yes. So, yeah, that was great for me. From that, I had, once again, what you might call mentors or elders, where I had a tool and kiln building teacher that was building a mud brick and wharf timber house on the Central Coast, John Eady. And he was a great character. He was knockabout. He didn't worry about stuff too much. He's easygoing. So I was quite inspired by him. And then went on to do like a factory job making paper, recycled paper and saving money. And that was like a 6-year process, riding my bike to work and saving money for, deposit for a block of land and building my first ecohouse.
I want to go back a little. You love ceramics, but dropping out of that course, did you feel like it failed?
I was a bit disappointed in myself for dropping out, but there was, from what I could see or knew of myself, there was just no way I could complete the course and cope with it. It was just too stressful, too confusing, too confronting. So leaving that, taking that year off, doing the handmade paper job, recycled paper, was great because it was process work. So it's the same process all day. It was a great scene. I was working mainly by myself, music cranking. The guy running it was cool. A couple of other people working there on occasion were cool. Yeah, that suited me down to the ground. Yeah.
I want to go back also to you mentioned that another indicator was challenges with reading.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Just difficult to read. Start reading a page, just a paragraph, and my mind would just wander into thinking of other ideas and concepts, and to stay focused and try and get that paragraph would take 10 times. So then to read a whole book like that was very difficult. It's probably why I'm very much a picture person, and it's probably why I so love YouTube, because it is pictures and it's not necessarily words and reading.
Right.
Yeah. That's the main reason. And the socialisation thing too, yeah, that's always been difficult to some extent.
So do you feel that, like, being cognizant of the fact that socialising has its challenges and understanding that you're a visual learner,
Yes.
just being aware that there's challenges there then has helped you adapt and shape how you do things?
Yeah, definitely. And I've just worked out a script as I'm going along of how to behave and be reasonable and when to be outlandish, and, you know, that's something you learn that comes with maturity. And just allowing myself to not care and engage socially at times, and just to be who I am and not try and fit in or fit that breed. And that's something most people go through. So the challenges I had that I'm talking about, most people are subject to growing up. You know, and that's the important thing, you know. And I had someone say to me, you know, a lot of people are doing it a lot tougher than you, and they're not, say, spectrum orientated or whatever. It's like, yeah, true. I've always had people to say, yeah, don't be a victim with that, you know. Just live your life and be a bit carefree if you have to.
I don't want to harp on about it too much, but it is quite interesting and educational, I think, not just for me, but for maybe other people who are curious about how they learn and how they do things. So I guess, how do you feel like our society understands and includes neurodiversity?
I think more and more as the years go on, people understand it.
You've seen that evolution?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a lot of friends that were neurodiverse, so they got a different brain makeup. It's not just psychological. Their brain's wired in a different way that they've struggled with.
Yeah.
That I've had conversation with when they've been diagnosed, and like Tony Mann's the classic example. I met him at Nimbin for a skate. Might have been 2007 or 8. And he says, man, I've been diagnosed. Asperger's. It's like a weight off my shoulders. Like, it's amazing, you know. And then they put me onto this film project. So they're giving me camera gear and I'm doing these films and I feel empowered. And then here's these 5 skateboards I've just rebuilt the night before, you know. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're Asperger's, mate. Happy days, yeah.
It's often joked about that all skateboarders are ADHD or neurodivergent in some way.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, maybe to some extent. It definitely gives you something to focus on. That buzz you get is like dopamines and endorphins. I mean, they're more powerful than any medication. To have that flowing through your mind and be able to turn your mind off, and then to feel that buzz with the people you're skating with and that connection, and everyone's free. Has
medication ever been part of your story?
I've tried a bit, not much, but yeah, it just didn't agree with me. More that's helped me is technique, and the big change point in my life is YouTube. Being able to access information, particularly for most of my life, psychologists I've seen a few times, but it's very expensive. Books are expensive. $50 for a book that might help you. I mean, that's so much how it was when we were growing up. You can go onto YouTube now and start watching a show and go, well, that doesn't quite fit the brief, or that's not quite what I'm trying to work out. You change the channel, you know. So YouTube, definitely a big change in my life, and I've learnt so much about my situation and coping mechanisms. Learning that anxiety is so based in trauma. So if I experience trauma, if I identify and feel deeply the source of that trauma, it liberates me from the anxiety quite often. So yeah, technique, YouTube, amazing.
And a yearning to constantly learn?
Yes, definitely. wanting to learn. The way I am with my brain is that I love learning process and I love figuring things out. It's not necessarily about outcomes. I mean, a lot of the educational system and society at large views intelligence as a result. He's intelligent because he's running an accounting firm, or he's a stock market guy, or he runs a building company. But quite often intelligence is something that you just need to express or practice in your own way to feel as a complete person, regardless of the outcomes, money or whatever, you know.
You know, when you said you started working at the paper
Yes.
factory and then you saved money
Yes.
to buy property and a house.
Yeah.
So have you always been disciplined in that way?
No, I wasn't. But at that point, the job suited me because it was simple. It was something I could stick with.
Yeah.
Another, say, need that's a bit Asperger's or autistic is the need for security and comfort is why your home space is so important, because it's your refuge. And it almost can be like a fort, you know. So knowing that I'd set something like that up eventually, inspired by John Eadie at TAFE with the work he was doing with his house. And it once again, like I suppose skating did, it gave me a direction and purpose to pursue. Once I'd saved it, I mean, the land was cheap then. It was like $21,000 or something in the Blue Mountains, 2 hours from Sydney on the train.
Amazing.
I managed to I built an earth house. I got my first chainsaw mill to mill the timber for out of pine. I didn't own a car, so me and the guy I work with, Tim, a good mate of mine, Tim from Mount Vic, who's stuck by me many years, he and I rode our push bikes down to the job, 3Ks, with all the tools in milk crates. We added cement to the earth mix so it was stable. And we'd pull up at the hardware and they'd put a 40-kilo bag, like twice the weight of modern bags, on our handlebars, and we'd ride down to the job and do a long day, tons and tons of shoveling through the mixer, and then ride home on the bikes. And yeah, like that went on for a few years.
Like, why the desire to go into that sort of eco building? Like, where did it come from?
I was into permaculture, and I was a bit eco-friendly sort of thing. A lot of it, though, was the bottom line with regard to cost, because I just didn't have the money. I think I was allowed to borrow $60,000, and that was it. Just because I was sort of on a factory person's wage, and I wasn't working full time, just with how much work we had. So yeah, I really had to rein down the costs. Yeah,
it was driven by that.
I'd almost say necessity mainly, and maybe the green thing was secondary to that, but certainly like a driver. Yeah.
Wow, man. So would you consider that your first eco house?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
And then moving forward, how many have you done in total, you think?
I think this one I'm finishing now is the 5th project, but I have helped on another couple of projects.
So you're being sourced by people to do it?
Well, I still have no qualification. My only qualification is my niece certificate, where I did that small business course on the dole. But that was brilliant.
So you don't have a trade qualification?
No, I got no trade qualification or any of that.
You've got vast construction experience.
Yeah, my old man was a builder, and he's my dad, so I didn't really want to work with him, but I learnt plenty off him. And the big part was the hardware. The old guys at the hardware had just helped me out and give me support. You just ask questions. People love to tell you. All you have to do is ask questions. And they're going to be dumb questions, but it doesn't matter. The old boys will make sense of it, or, the older women as well.
Yeah.
No problem.
What's the least efficient aspect of eco house building?
I got burnt out doing the poured earth thing, or, mud bricks and that. It was just one project at Katoomba was 250 tonne over 5 months, 11 pallets of cement, 3 of us. I had that was mainly built by skateboarders, like Simon Reynolds, Sack from Adelaide.
Yeah.
Another iconic figure and a mentor in my life for sure. And Dave Pinfold from Katoomba, and a lot of other skaters. Danny Van helped on that house. Yeah, that house was built by skateboarders.
Amazing.
Great days, yeah.
Like, I mean, we're in your amazing eco house. What kind of house? We're in your studio, but your actual main house is immaculate, amazingly precise, like just a stunning space, like something out of a magazine as far as I'm concerned, like some amazing design magazine, and everything's reclaimed.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
maybe give us an idea of like the time it takes to actually reclaim these materials. And how do you do it?
There's like a 5-year timeline almost, or a 3-year timeline on finding things. So marketplace is great. I'll find doors on the side of the road. All of the glass I use is sliding glass door panels from aluminium doors. They've got 2 panels with them, so you can double glaze. They're the same sizes.
Okay.
I usually get my glass from the tip shops on the south coast at the rubbish dumps. I'll get like 2 panels for $10. Wow. The timber I'll mill 6 months ahead of time and stack so it can season. The corrugated iron, I'll driving past and I'll see someone taking an old galvanised corrugated iron roof off. And I'll say to the builder, "What are you doing with the tin?" And he'll say, "Giving it to you for a case of beer." You know, that sort of horse trading. And yeah, finding sinks, most of what I use I find.
So inspiring.
Thanks. It suits my mentality. I love systems thinking and schedules and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff.
Like, and I want you to give people an indication of like, in terms of the design process, you have used the principles of permaculture in regards to things like even the angle you've built these properties.
Yes. So usually north facing.
Why?
Well, north facing windows because you get solar gain in winter. The sun is on an angle in winter to the north and then overhead in summer. Some south glazing, but not much, just for light. Yeah. And then I don't do east-west glazing because in the morning and the afternoon it heats the house up too much in summer particularly. And decent insulation and drafts, getting rid of drafts, that chills a house quicker than anything.
Interesting.
And just minimal disturbance of the site reduces costs. I'll follow the excavator around and throw all the bush rock aside so I can build retaining walls and that sort of thing. And just talking with other people about how they do it. And once again, riding the shoulders of giants. It's all been done before, and I'm just putting my own spin on it, really.
Yeah, like, you know, like you've built some concrete skate parks as well.
Yes.
Like, which potentially could have been a source of income and revenue, but you've actually gravitated more towards eco house building. Why?
Just the lifestyle suited me because I work by myself. I don't necessarily have to deal with people. I don't have to answer to bosses or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though I've had a lot of great bosses over the years. Limited budget. I can't afford to pay people. You know, I have to do most of the work myself. And just to get a place locked up and move in, like when it's rough and there's no running water or I've got to go to the public toilet to go to the toilet or whatever, you know, like just because I couldn't afford rent, you know. So, yeah, that was the system around that thing.
You're living in the construction site.
Yeah. Just vacuum at the end of the day. And that moment when you hook up a sink and you turn the tap on and you've got running water instead of carting water up in buckets, it's just an amazing day. I'll stand there turning the tap on and off for an hour.
Simple pleasures.
Simple pleasures, yeah.
Like I said, your properties are amazing, so it must be deeply satisfying to live in these beautiful constructions.
It is. It's lovely. It's been very stressful though. Like it's a lot of hard work and financial stress. Like there's a small mortgage on this house, but the financial stress trying to meet a deadline when on previous projects where I couldn't borrow money or any more money, and that's definitely a stress.
Yeah.
And then going back to work, saving money to pay myself to live, but also for materials, and then to find time to finish the house. It can be quite stressful.
I can imagine. Grav, do you remember Scott living in construction sites and stuff like that? Do you remember those days?
No, I don't. I missed out on those days. I was busy doing my own version of that in Newcastle, cheap houses and renting and the same sort of thing, like that stress of renovating when you've got a day job and that's your day job and you need the money to do the project and you're living in it's the same sort of thing. You're doing your job to pay for materials to renovate the house that you're living in, which is actually sort of a building site with no floor and
yes,
that sort of stuff. I didn't experience that with Scott. I have, in the last couple of years been up here and, I've seen the, what do you call that? The reward of your labour. Yeah. It's definitely like I could do this every second weekend in winter. I just love coming up here and sitting here in the sun and having these conversations. And as you say, they're like this is next level kind of mountain living. It's really you can't buy an experience like this, to be honest.
When you reflect on the struggle,
yes,
do you feel like you're in a place of your life where you're entering into the best years? You're not old.
Yeah, 56. Yeah, I don't know about best years. I think each phase of my life has its own merits and drawbacks. I think that's what I truly believe. I mean, it's nice now. Now I'm tending to do a bit more cabinet work and lighter work. Just climbing on a roof by yourself in 30k winds, where it's sleeting is quite difficult.
Not feeling it?
Yeah, and just it's starting to wear my body out a bit, I think. If I work a hard week physically, particularly digging, if I try to go for a skate at Katoomba with the crew after that, it's just nothing left in the tank. So I'm backing off to lighter duties, and I'm also not as driven. So I'm sort of mellowing a bit as I get older.
Interesting. The community of the Blue Mountains, I haven't had a lot of experience with it, but just in the last 24 hours, my immediate, reflection on it is it's just a great, solid, tight little community of really humble and friendly people.
Yeah,
The skaters I've met anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel the same?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What do you love about it?
Well, I've skated with a lot of those crew for, 25 years or so since I moved here. And guys like Dave Pinfold, I skate with regularly, and Haydeck, and Logan, Tom, Don, so many crew. Riley's a classic, yeah. There's so many crew. They're all pretty humble guys, but when the skate's on, they'll push and
noticed.
So they got all their cool projects, and they bushwalk, and it's a great scene, really good scene. And that park was built originally by Rob Lewis. I think even Greg Jackson, concrete skate parks.
So that skate park, right? I kind of just see it. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. I just see it as like the Katoomba Surf Club skate park.
Yeah, right.
It's like it's theirs.
Yeah.
So maybe tell us about the Katoomba Surf Club, like the background and history of it.
Well, those guys set it up a bit tongue-in-cheek, I think, and it's pretty funny. I mean, they got that Dr. Zog's sex wax sticker. It says like no surf, no worries or something, or never surf, no worries, yeah.
Yeah, they've it's like a satire of the sex wax logo.
Yeah, and it's probably because Katoomba's 2 hours from the beach, and it's pretty funny, yeah. And it's a creative outlet as well. Like a lot of them do graph and are artistic in some way.
Yeah. And they're doing little like community projects.
Yeah, they are. Like interested in maintaining the park and promoting skating a bit, just at a mellow level. Like no real big competitions, but they have get-togethers and days and
skate jams.
Yeah,
sick.
After the park was built, like I think it was 2012, we'd been talking about how we'd modify it for years. So when me and Bathurst Mick got the opportunity to do some work, we just said, okay, well, those 10 things we've talked about for years, and away it went.
Yeah, dude. No, it's so epic. You know, I often think about legacy. You know, as I get older, now I've got kids of my own. I think, what am I leaving in this world when I pass on? Do you ever consider that?
Yeah, I like to think that I've inspired people to some degree with what I've done. Once again, I believe I'm part of a lineage of people that have broken ground before me. And just I see a lot of my friends struggling, and I'm just so glad that we're having conversations around that, where they're struggling with aspects of their lives, or we've got support around for each other, or we can have a chat with each other. It's like that old adage where someone says, "Oh, I'm going to see a psychologist," and the mate says, "Well, haven't you got any friends?" You know, like it helps so much. And even just that endorphin you get from hanging out with your mates, that sort of thing with your community. Like I like to think that if I'm contributing to that, just to some level, without, you know, because I can be quite laid back with my character, I think that would be my great
That's
legacy.
what you're going to be
I
remembered
think.
for.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah. To be part of that process and that community is pretty special.
The process of effectively supporting one another.
Yeah, a bit, without it being too gushy or too...
So not
hours of gentle sobbing, you know, just having a bit of a joke and getting together and,
but they're
sharing a sad story maybe sometimes.
See, that's interesting because they're intangible. They're hard to define. But
yeah.
Eureka houses and the skate parks you built, they're tangible.
Yes, true.
And your ceramics, like these are artifacts.
Yeah, true. I like to think...
I find it interesting, excuse me to cut you off, but I find it interesting that you consider that over these things.
Yeah, I mean, the house things I've enjoyed doing, and I'm happy with the work I've done. But it's just the importance of that social connection and understanding of myself and working with others around that. That's primarily the important thing for me. And then the skate park work, the work I've done fairly recently out west, pouring concrete skate parks.
Tell us about it.
That started, say, with the Blackheath job. That was a volunteer project. They had a concrete slab. The timber ramps were just falling apart or getting stolen, so we went, we'll build some concrete ramps. And I'd seen the video Northwest about the Oregon scene, what was happening there. So it was 2003, I think. And I just went, wow, that's so inspiring. It was DIY. They were knockabout blokes, loved skating, loved hard music. So we got the Blackheath project happening via the neighbourhood centre, who annexed their insurance to cover us. And just with virtually no money, just built those few concrete obstacles as working bees on a Saturday, you know, and the fish and chip shop shout us chicken and chips and just throwing rocks at each other, and it was great.
Special.
And that sort of set that seed. Also talking with people like Rob Lewis, we're at some skate get-together, and he goes, man, you got to get back in the game, you know, you built those ramps years ago, concrete lasts, no one's going to tear it down. He goes, come and work with me, I'll tool you up and you can start your own gig. So I went, oh yeah, I was neck deep in some project and debt. But then years later, I had Pete Ostie, which was one of the guys from where I grew up, skater and an engineer, mate of Luxford's as well. He'd been up in Queensland, developed a couple of small projects with local concreters, low-budget stuff. He'd moved down to Molong, Western New South Wales, and he had the Manildra project on his books. He designed a park. He was having trouble finding concreters for the budget he had. So it might have been 700 square metres and he had 130 grand. He said, look, I got a project at Wellington. You can be a supervisor. We'll get Bones, the guy that poured Bondi, and work with him and he'll tool you up a bit. You learn a bit. So I did that project. I worked with them, worked on the steelwork a bit. There's a few problems with council steelwork, affected the pour slightly, but it's a reasonable result. After coming back, I finished a house project, got out of a loan, and I'm thinking, geez, maybe I could pour Millthorpe. If I just start with a 2-foot-high wall and build my skills through. I had Bathurst Mick Whitford, and grew up with Danny Van. He lived out at Bathurst. He was keen. We had another bloke, likeable Mick, who helped for half the project, but it wasn't for him. I rang Pete up and I said, Pete, I reckon I could build Millthorpe. He goes, I've been waiting for you to call. He goes, cool, man. I'll set this up and that. And, off we went. Tell council, I've got experience, and we got billeted to local families to reduce our costs. There was a little bit of help from a local excavator who worked for half price, and it was baptism by fire, that one, to get up to pour right the way through to pour that cradle as a final piece. But once again, a lot of help. I could chat with other people in the industry about pouring techniques. I'd poured with bones. So we managed to get that project done, and that was our foot in the door for a lot of the projects out west. And it so reminded me of what like Red and Monk and those guys, Sage, were doing in Oregon, because it was small towns of 600 people that had small budgets, but they were very practical. Most of the people out in councils out in the west are engineers, and they've got limited resources. So from then on, we talked with other councils via Pete again, and I turned up at one at Trangie, and there's 10 of us talking. We had no budget for design stuff. I'd say, look, get your committee together, send me some ideas. I'd do a pencil drawing or a pen drawing, sketch up, elevations, plan view, and then I'd turn up to one meeting just for free and say, okay, what do you think? And then, okay, a couple of changes, manual pads, this sort of stuff, important stuff. At that meeting, a guy comes blaring in a ute, cowboy, bloody blood and mud all down one side, runs up, goes, oh, sorry, I'm late, I'm Jim, I'm the mayor. And I said, oh, g'day, Jim. Everyone happy with the project? Yeah, a couple of changes. He goes, great. He goes, so I've heard if we provide a shipping container, a temporary fence, fill and a backhoe, an operator, and accommodation, you'll build more park. I said, yeah, we'll build another 30%, 40%. He goes, great, when can you start? I said, well, you got to put a DA through. He goes, yeah, of course. I said, so 3 months? He goes, there's 4 of us at council, mate. Your DA will be ready Tuesday. And we turn up for that job, and the mayor is putting in the star pickets for the temporary fence.
No way.
Yeah. And then he comes back and just scatters grass seed around the top edge of the project. No turf. Lions Club turns up the week before it's done and builds the picnic table and shelter. Yeah, amazing.
Done.
Some old guy turned up at that project and says, flat as a tack out there,
Yeah.
And he says, mate, kids aren't going to be able to ride that thing. You're wasting your time. I go, what are you talking about? He says, you don't understand. I said, what? He says, kids in this district have never seen a hill, mate. So, yeah, good times out in the country. That Manildra project, another great one, where there was one night I was sitting in the pub and they're giving me accommodation in the pub. There was a joker draw happening, right, which is where they raise money by stacking cards and you almost bet to win the jackpot. And they're raising money for the park I'm currently building. And I'm sitting there, only bloke in the pub, drinking Shiraz. It's Monday, so the bistro's not open, but the publican's wife brings down a meal from me, from the family meal.
Yeah.
And I'm just there. I almost cried. They, Scotty, we got another $250. I said, another ledge, mate. Let's go. So beautiful. And when people know your heart's in the right place and you're genuine, especially out in the country, it means so much to them and they look after you.
Yeah.
Out there, they treasure infrastructure. And the closer you get to the city, the more people see infrastructure as a liability.
That's the contrast.
It is, yeah. So once again, Manildra, 700 square metres or so. I think that one was 135 grand. And just me and Mick.
Cheap.
And we didn't pump concrete because it'd be another 10 grand at least. So we'd shovel up.
No.
We try and set
wheelbarrows and shovels?
Yeah, but we'd pour the parks from the centre out. We'd try and set it so the concrete would fall down the curve, but we'd have to shovel up that last half cube.
So what, the concrete truck would turn up and dump it and then you're moving it?
No, we'd back the truck in and we'd pour the parks from the centre out. so that we had access with the truck. So the truck could be at, say, the platform height and then pour the concrete at the coping and it would fall down through the curve, right? So pouring the concrete off the truck from the top of the whatever curve. Then we would settle it in really well with trowels, wooden trowels and floats, and push the concrete right in, then run our screed through, usually just the two of us. Occasionally for the big pours, my brother would turn up, Matt Spring, and just volunteer. You know, we'd shout him dinner and he'd go, no, don't pay me. And he'd help us. My brother was a great skater in his day as well. Yeah.
Close relationship?
Yeah. We still hang out every now and again, and yeah, we get along well.
Epic.
Pretty cruisy, yeah.
You're still ripping, Scott. I mean, I watched you all day at the Bondi Bowl Bash recently, which you came second in. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
And
great day.
Skated with you yesterday at the Katoomba Surf Club skate park. And you're ripping, you know. What do you think the key to longevity is?
I'm trying not to get injured is my primary focus. And, I mean, I watch my diet a bit. I try and get out on the push bike twice a week. That quite often doesn't happen. So I'm trying to look after my health.
Has there ever been a period where you've stopped skating?
Yeah, I think in that 95 to 2000 period, I wasn't skating much. I occasionally skate Bondi Mini or a bit of a curb skate, you know, or to the shops. So I wasn't skating a lot then. But yeah, I think I'm trying not to push too hard too. But if on the day, if I'm feeling good, I can say, okay, I can land that. Johnny Grace calls it having a look. Okay. He says, just have a bit of a look. And I'm so grateful that I can still skate. And now that I'm older, that's more important than ticking a bucket list or any of that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's my main thinking.
You're in the same boat, Grav. Like, what do you think the key to longevity is? I'll ask you the same question.
I feel like I'm an anchor in Scott's boat.
Oh, jeez. No way.
You're still moving on, but you're older than you're
a little bit older. Yeah. Look, I'm definitely on the same page as Scott. You do those other things. You ride your pushy. You don't eat really. Don't eat bad food all the time. You keep the hydration up. But being on your skateboard, that's how I felt yesterday skating with you fellas. I didn't skate for the last 2 weeks because my back's been sore. Well, from skating. Well, actually, potentially from changing a tyre. But yeah, that little slip off I had at Johnny's ramp was it's been a bit like that for a couple of weeks. But so I was just watching you guys going, oh, maybe I'm getting a bit old for this.
No.
And then I had a sit down and warm up, and then had another go. And yeah, it's just. It's being inside your limits. It's like having a look's a great way of saying it. I think that's that's a good way of saying it, because that's me. Having a skate. Like I don't know, I had 20 runs yesterday. They were all exactly the same line. I just had a couple of looks at things and found the thing that was comfortable. But look, I've said this. I think I've said this to you before, Shan. It's not doing it is not even an option. So you got to work out a way of doing it and being able to do it, and staying, for me anyway, staying inside your limits, just not doing something where you're only 50-50. Don't do something that you're 50-50 about if you're 11 foot up.
Yeah, and do appreciate it.
Yeah. And think about that. And look, standing on the platform with Scott over the last few months at Johnny's and him saying, think about what you're doing. You're a 60-year-old man dropping into an 11-foot ramp. You don't have to do it today if you don't want to. And that's a significant way of looking at what you're doing. And then when you do it, you get that extremely satisfying dopamine rush of, what am I doing here? Yeah, I'm doing this thing that I've loved my whole life.
All right. So skate, choose your battles.
Yeah.
Check. And skate without ego.
And focus.
Is that what you reckon you're saying, Grove? And focus.
Yeah, skate without ego, I think. But you need a little bit of that, as when Scott says, on the days when I'm feeling it. I think it is that. I think a little bit of ego is what gets you to do that next thing. Otherwise you are a little bit like, Will I say yes? I'm going to say it was a bit of ego that got me back up there yesterday afternoon. I'm not this old guy that's just going to sit and watch my mates skate. I'm a skateboarder, and that's a bit of ego. That's a little bit of pride in yourself to get up and I might fall off because my back's a bit stiff. I might fall off, but I've fallen off a skateboard before.
It's important, man. Yeah,
out of your comfort zone slightly, but
well, just in that sort of self-preservation way. I wasn't there. We all do it. We look at those lines and you go, I could do this thing there. And you go, yeah, but you're probably going to fall off the first 10. So what's the point of that?
There's a lot of crew that can't skate, older crew. And I just say, geez, just put your favourite decks on the wall and just have a dream and watch the Thrasher channel on YouTube and a bit of Nine Club and your podcast, man. And
thank you, bro.
Just enjoy the culture of it. And even if you can't get out and ride. Or just get out on the push bike and
love this.
Dream of dropping in or something. Yeah.
Wow, man, it's been epic. Like, you're such an inspiration. And I said this to you the other day, like, I'm fanning out a little bit on you because some of my earliest childhood memories, I say this a lot on here, travelling up from Nowra on the train 3 hours just to skate Fairfield Ramps when I was 12 years old. A couple of times did it without telling my parents, just took off on the train. They wouldn't let me go on the train because I was so young. And I'd see you and Luxford and John Finlay and Mitch Newell and Vichan Wicks always stood out to me. And I'd, just in awe, and like you guys were like the giants, like you said, you keep referring to standing on the shoulders of giants. And it was like I would never even dare try to talk to these guys because they were just in another realm, like my heroes. And to sit across from you now, it's like I'm pinching myself. So
nice, man.
Yeah.
And it's great for me to see you as, the next generation, blazing trails, mate, and doing great work. Yeah, that's inspiring,
What would you like to leave on? Like, what would be some final words you'd like to share with people?
I'd say in your life, the most important thing or the most important thing to do, more than, say, family, relationships, career, money, skateboarding, beer, whatever, is to work on yourself and have a better understanding of yourself. I think when you do, you come around to more self-acceptance. You'll function better in your life and work with your peers around that and have those conversations. Break the chains of old mythologies and dysfunctional patterns that we've had to endure for so many years, and don't be a cranky old man if you can help it. That's my greatest advice, mate.
Wow, man. I think that's a good way to end. Don't be a cranky old man. Mr. Scott Spring, everybody, joined by the legendary Gravel Burns. Thanks, Grav.
Cheers, man.
Thanks, Grav.
As an experience,
Happy days.
well done, driving
boys.
to the mountains with you, Grav. Hey.
Thanks, Shannon.
Love you guys.
Bring it to you guys. I'm like, I don't want your cement, dog.
Out so eloquently was just blowing my mind, man.